Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Check the post, Husker Nation. Brought to you by Nebraska Spine Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, fine folks at home, we're going to talk a little Pac-12 football today. Now, why under God's hot sun would we be talking Pac-12 football in the Carriker Chronicles? Because the Pac-12 could be facing a potential boycott. There are several players in the Pac-12 conference who have formed this hashtag United, We Are United group. And basically, they have a list of demands, and if these demands are not met, they are saying they're going to boycott the 2020 football season. Obviously, if the Pac-12 boycotts the 2020 football season, that affects college football, that affects the Big Ten, ergo it affects Nebraska. Now, a lot of the facts, the stats, the figures, the details that I'm going to be using and reacting to in today's show are going to be Sam McEwen's article. You can check that out on omaha.com for all the details, all the facts. This is my reaction. This is my thoughts. All right. At the end of the show, I want to hear your thoughts, your reaction. I don't call it the People's Show for a marketing ploy. It's very, very real. I want to hear from you fine folks at home. All right. The Pac-12 has come out with a list of demands. Hashtag We Are United is what they are bonding behind. And if these demands are not met, they are threatening to boycott the season. Now, I'm not going to debate whether I agree or disagree with each one of these demands. I may address a couple of them here and there, but that's not the point of the show. The point of the show is how realistic is this? Are we going to have football at all? And if we do, is the Pac-12 going to play it? How realistic is this? That's the point of this show. If I debated each and every demand they have, we'd be here for hours. All right, now, here's one of the quotes they put out. Because NCAA sports exploits college athletes physically, economically, and academically, and disproportionately harms black college athletes, hashtag We Are United, end quote. Now, this is part of the group letter that they sent out. Now, they have wide-ranging demands, some of them, safety protocols for playing during the COVID-19 pandemic. This seems reasonable. Again, not going to debate all of these, but this seems reasonable. Also, the creation of a Pac-12 Black College Athlete Summit to address racial injustice, setting aside 2% of the Pac-12's budget for players to direct toward financial aid for low-income black students. Also, guaranteed medical coverage for 6 years after the end of a college athlete's eligibility. As a guy who played, this seems reasonable as well. We're going to keep moving on, though. Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott and all league coaches taking voluntary pay cuts to drastically reduce excessive pay, the end of all performance bonuses, and a 50% redistribution of the Pac-12's total revenue away from schools and towards student athletes to be spread evenly among them. Now, in Sam's article, he has what fair market value is for each college football player in the Pac-12, or what it would be estimated to be, and that is $274,454. Now, in the Big Ten, it goes up exponentially, up to $412,099 for each college football player in the Big 12, what fair market value would be. Now, this is obviously, as we all know, in direct violation of NCAA rules that says college athletes cannot be paid. Now, if this did happen, this would do one of two things. It would either make us in direct competition with the NFL. I'm going to be honest with you. If we're seen as direct competition with the NFL, it's the battle we're not going to win. Or we'll just be seen as a minor league system for the NFL. Now, let's be very, very clear. That's pretty much what college football is. But perception is reality. We are not perceived right now as a minor league system for the NFL. We are, but because college athletes are treated as amateurs, we are seen as separate and different, even though we know that's basically what we are in the NFL's terms. Anyways, now, again, I'm not going to debate all of these, whether I agree or disagree with all of them, but here's the deal. And there's more that I didn't list. Again, check out Sam's article. But I will address one because the most frequently one I've received for the past few years. Should college athletes be paid? Now, the best answer I've ever heard actually came from Jason Peter, because I like college athletes being seen as amateurs. It separates you from pro sports, okay? But, and don't misunderstand me, a scholarship is incredibly valuable. Because if you don't get a scholarship, a lot of these kids can't go to school. They can't get an education. For me personally, I couldn't afford to go to school without taking out a huge loan and paying on it for the next 40, 50 years of my life with interest, like my sister is having to do. Okay, a scholarship for me was huge and very valuable. But when you compare it to the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that are being made on the backs of these student athletes, it does not equal out. It just doesn't. There's value in the scholarship, but the value that they're bringing in is way more. So how do you keep them amateurs? How do you keep them separate from the NFL? How do you not directly compete, even though you kind of are? How do you do this? Jason Peters answered, not perfect, better than anything I've ever heard, better than anything I've ever said. Figure out what fair market value is. Obviously, you're going to have to estimate how that would increase over time, but pay them when they're 35. That way, when they're in college, they're amateurs, yet when they're 35, they're being compensated fairly. Best idea I've ever heard. Now, again, the point of this show, how realistic is this to actually happen? So if we have football, the Pac-12 can join in on the fun. These are drastic, major changes. Let's go back to some of them. Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott and all league coaches taking voluntary pay cuts voluntary. 50% redistribution of the Pac-12's total revenue. These are major changes, and this ain't a whole lot of time for this to be happening. To me, this makes it far less realistic for this to actually happen. Maybe over time, some of this could happen, or maybe even all of it, but this is a very short amount of time for some major changes. Now, I have no problem with college players who want to opt out of the 2020 season, especially if you have safety concerns. Major League Baseball players are doing it. That's not even a contact sport. NFL players are doing it. And this old broken down has-been who doesn't play anymore had to look this up because I don't know what the compensation is if you opt out, because obviously I don't play anymore. But NFL players who opt out for 2020 also will receive salary advances. Those who opt out for medical reasons because they are at high risk regarding COVID-19 will receive $350,000 for the season, and those who opt out voluntarily will receive $150,000 for the season. So if college athletes opt out, still receiving their scholarship check seems fair to me, but you can't have it both ways. If you want to stay away for safety reasons or even otherwise, you can't then use the dining hall, lift with the team, go to study hall, or practice with the team. You can't have it both ways. So again, there's demands that make sense in here. All right, but at the same time, I think Joe Thomas on Twitter said it the best, and I quote, "It seems to me that these demands were made without much thoughtfulness for the financial responsibilities of college sports. You lose your audience when you make unrealistic demands with no basis in reality," end quote. So my thoughts, how realistic is this? To me, this feels like a holdup. I'll be honest with you. Now, everything is last minute because of COVID-19. Everything is fluid. I get that. But they could have come out with this a little bit sooner. It feels last minute, all right, and there's not a lot of time for drastic things to happen. It feels a little bit like a holdup to me. I don't think it's very realistic for this to actually happen. Now, we'll see how it plays out. But if you're a wrestling fan, you're going to enjoy this story. If you haven't already heard it, if you're not a wrestling fan, you might turn the show off. But in 1992, I believe it was SummerSlam, the Ultimate Warrior went to Vince McMahon. And he said, "I want this much more money for me to go in the main event." And Vince McMahon had no choice but to give in because he had all these people who'd paid for the pay-per-view to see the Ultimate Warrior. He'd been advertised. He had to give him the money. So the Ultimate Warrior went out there and performed. Had he not, Ultimate Warrior said, "I wasn't going out." Now, there's a lot of, is this true, is this not true? Okay, you can debate that too. But here's the deal. All right, that was a holdup. If it is true, this is a holdup too. The difference is Vince McMahon was held over a barrel. I don't know that the Pac-12 is, and I just don't know how realistic this really is. Go Big Red and always remember to throw the bird. Thanks again to our sponsor, Nebraska Spine Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, when it's your spine, you do not want to mess around, and experience matters. That's why you can trust the experts at Nebraska Spine Hospital, the region's only spine-specific hospital. They are the best at what they do.